Vicki Bennett invited a bunch of her friends out to improvise with each other. So we met a couple of hours before we were bound to play. Was that Manchester?
In Manchester, she had a notations project. So it was that night, it was myself and John and MC Schmidt from Matmos. And I knew MC from before, and then I played with John the first time that night. At one point during the set, I was singing and I thought, oh, John has this amazing Exotica record, like super cheesy, like Esquivel, Martin Denny, something like that. And it sits really amazing in my voice. Like, where is this record from? And afterwards I said to John, what were you sampling? And he held up this broken cell phone and said, oh, I just recorded you out of the air, out of the room, and like started sampling it. And I thought, okay, this is unlike anybody that I've worked with in terms of how subtle it is, and also how there is a relationship between me using my voice and the person doing the manipulations. It doesn't feel like I'm being controlled or John's actually, you know, John's deciding exactly what happens. I'm not sure who's deciding what happens. And that's what I think is interesting.
You know, after that initial concert, we just began texting, and we have a lot of shared interests in technology and the way that people hang out online. So we were hanging out online and sharing our favorite megalomaniac interviews with Silicon Valley CEOs, all of which made for incredible librettos. And that sort of turned into this piece, Moreover, where we just started improvising. We had this one commission from WDR to make a radio play, Horspiel, and then we had material, but mostly we just had excuses to keep improvising in front of people.
I've always collected texts ever since I was a kid, and when I was a child I did it in notebooks. I just wrote down I wrote down whatever I thought was interesting text, and so that could be from a book I read, or a joke a friend said in school, or a line from a television program, or sort of terrible advertising copy. I think I share very much with my father this absolute delight in terrible advertising copy, you know, or terrible slogans on shops. So there was always just this feeling that text is just funny, it's interesting. And then with, you know, devices and laptops and the phone, I can just have these massive files running all the time that I just throw text into. So whether it be something I hear in the street, or something I write myself, or like a line from an interview, or something from a book, or a tweet, I just throw it all into this massive file, and every now and then I get it printed out so that I have a hard copy of it, so that when I perform I have access to all of these little fragments of text.
Oh, I grew up listening and then later joined this media collective called Negativland, largely due to the weekly radio show called Over the Edge, which is hard to describe, but it was a live collage mix show that sounded like the internet of the last 15 years, but in the 1980s. You could phone in, several people could phone in at the time and mix with each other over the phone. You know, they used the radio station mixer the way it was meant to, with everything going at once, but sort of conversationally, like a collage. And it became very obvious, like, you can, you know, we think of recordings as fixed, but recordings need to be played. You can improvise with them. It's important to improvise with them so that we realize that they are live music, that they require interaction before they turn back into music, that they shouldn't be mistaken for music. So Negativland is sort of a media literacy project, which used to be about old-fashioned, you know, analog and then digital media, and now it's social media. And that's where the work with Negativland effortlessly, you know, ties over into Jennifer, who can improvise even faster than I can.
I think for me, at the core of Moreover is a text that I found online that was some young guy was posting on Reddit, and this is several years ago, and he was saying that he was in love with GPT-2. And this is GPT-2, this is well before ChatGPT. It's just a completion algorithm, it doesn't even talk to you. And he was saying how lonely he was. And he was saying, you know, life is really lonely, and I'm living in a foreign country, and I was just typing things like, I feel really lonely. And GPT-2 is completing his sentences. And, you know, of course, people on Reddit are making fun of this, but I just thought, you know, this is really profound. He, because of globalization, is forced to live somewhere where he has no family, he's incredibly lonely, he finds some way to have some little bit of comfort, and that's deeply human. So I think that's at the core, is that, you know, we're sort of trying to find the human in the mess. So it's really about, like, how do we live our lives? How do we sort of connect with other people, or have relationships, or just try and move through life when it's being constantly done through these different media.
Ne suivez jamais l'un de mes ordres si vous pensez que j'ai tort.
I think that the dolphins are not what they say they are.
Chaque début permet-il calcul inclus.